Recording is in progress. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to creating work-life harmony. It sounds good, doesn't it? Wouldn't that be nice? This is the first part of a three-part series that I'll be running over the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks in total. We're starting with module number 1 today, obviously, which is maintaining mindfulness. And so that's what we're going to explore today. I do invite you to ask questions. I'm going to ask you some questions. Let's light up that chat box as we go through today, and let's have a little bit of fun so we can make it enjoyable for everyone. That would be awesome. Yes or yes? Fantastic. So I've got a couple of slides, guys. If you like what you see, feel free to take a screenshot. If you need to log off early or you liked what you saw today, you'll feel free to share the YouTube video after today's session. I'll upload it to our YouTube channel and you're welcome to review or share that with your friends. But let us rock and roll. Sorry about your eardrums. Yeah, so what's really cool about creating a work-life balance and particularly maintaining mindfulness, there are more and more organizations that are interested in these tools, these techniques, and this concept. And here are just some of the organizations that we're beginning to help in this area. So creating work-life harmony, it's a 3-part series, as I mentioned. Today, we're talking about maintaining mindfulness. Next week, same time, same channel, dealing with toxic people. Ooh, how do we do that? So we'll save any questions for those till next week. And then the final week will be productivity, passion, and play. How can we bring it all together in such a way that we can create that work-life harmony? But we need to walk before we run. So let's start with maintaining mindfulness. Before we do, let's start with a definition. And I love this definition. Work-life harmony refers to a state where an individual is able to achieve both professional and personal goals. So it's a harmony between, the both main aspects of your life. Whatever's happening in your professional life, whether, you are an employee, whether you're a student about to, work, whether you have your own business or whatever it is. And then, of course, professionally as well. Personally. So, for example, tell me in the chat box, guys, what are some really simple and quick examples of personal goals, which might be very, very different to professional goals? Just tell me in the chat box, what are some examples of personal goals that would generally be quite separate to our work goals, shall we say? So we have life goals, we have work goals. Our life goals are our personal goals and our work goals are our professional goals. What do you guys think? What are some examples? Pursuing my favorite hobby. Absolutely. Yep. Moments. Ooh, nice moments. Serendipitous moments. Moments in the present moment. Personal goals might be something like a health goal or a certain weight goal. Oh, there we go. Thanks, Newton. Yeah, building a beach body. Oh, gosh, I'm not quite there yet. Got a ways to go, but yeah, so there's some examples of personal goals. Now, what about professional goals? Nice and quickly, guys, in the chat box, what are some kinds of professional goals that you might want to achieve? Or lifestyle pursuits, Alan, nice one. So certainly, and lifestyle starts to blend the two, right? And this is what we're talking about, is having that harmony, that balance between the two, where there can actually be an overlap. But what are some other professional goals that you think you might like to achieve? It might be, there we go. Thanks, Niels. Set up your online business following your passion. Oh, I love it. I love it. Getting promoted, Alan, absolutely. Your online business, any kind of business, building towards a career. Yeah, you might be, wanting to work with a nice organization that you feel happy and fulfilled. So perfect examples, guys. Thanks for sharing. And that's what work-life harmony is about. It's about acknowledging that we can achieve both, right? We can achieve our personal goals in life, and we can achieve our professional goals in work, whatever that kind of work that is for you, and to be able to integrate them harmoniously. Yeah. And I purposely chose the word harmony for this series of webinars as opposed to balance, right? Work-life balance, even though they're quite similar, balance presupposes, it's certainly in my mind, and by the way, guys, this webinar is based on my own thoughts and experience. I'm not necessarily a guru, just sharing from my experience, because I know where I used to be and the kind of life that I've created for myself now. I feel that I have a lot more harmony. And so what does that mean? Harmony is a general more happiness, more joy, more fulfillment. Balance is kind of like, it's balanced, it's okay. It's like, it's even. I work this much and I play this much. It's kind of balanced. I mean, it's okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure I'll use that terminology through this series, yet I much prefer the word harmony. Think about it. If you are achieving your personal goals and you're achieving your professional goals, whatever they are, that should bring a certain amount of joy, right? A certain amount of pleasure and fulfillment. And thanks, Alan. Harmony makes sense as multiple things may be in flux, right? So, and again, this is based on my experience. Many of you know me already, and you know that when I'm in work mode, as I like to call it, I work pretty hard, right? We have our NLP training, which is 5 days in a row. Then we have 2 days off, and then we do our ICF coaching program for 4 days. So it's pretty much 11 days straight with a tiny little break in the middle. And, some people say, that's nuts. That's crazy. You're overworking. You're going to burn yourself out. Well, my conscious choice to create it that way is following a process I call batching, where if you're going to do certain tasks at a certain time, you do them together, right? You don't try to multitask. You don't do this, you don't do that, and you don't do this. You kind of do this set of work at this time. And so what that means to me is, yes, those 11 days might be a little bit intense, yet when that program is finished, when those 11 days are finished, I then keep my calendar free for 1 month, pretty much, yeah, as best I can. I might have a little bit here and I might have a little bit there. So those 11 days, don't get me wrong, is it hard work? Yeah. Is it very fulfilling? Yes. For me, and again, I'm talking from my lens or my perception here, guys. You might think, oh, that's crazy, 11 days in a row, 9 o'clock until 7 o'clock. Stop it. And for me, it brings me a lot of joy. It brings me a lot of fulfillment on the work side. And then I get to come out here to Phetchaburi, about 2 hours south of Bangkok, and I get to enjoy the jungle here in Thailand by the river. So for me, that truly is harmony. I get to achieve my professional goals by certifying people to be professional coaches and trainers. And then I get to fulfill my personal goals of being in nature and listening to the wildlife and tinkering on my little bungalow in the jungle here. So that's kind of where my definition is coming from about work-life harmony. So this quote is one of my most favorites ever. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate, right? So the reason I bring this up, because one of the first questions many people ask themselves is, okay, great, Luke, okay, you're doing what you're doing and it sounds like you have work-life harmony, good for you. How do I do it? How do I start? How can I get there? Well, the first thing we need to do is become aware of your unconscious patterns and behaviors and belief systems. Because until you shine the spotlight of conscious awareness on those unconscious programs, you'll go through life living your life primarily on your previous programs, habits, and behaviors. And you'll be wondering why I can't achieve anything different. Well, the reason is because you're kind of trapped on that hamster wheel without any change or growth or awareness. And so that's what we're going to explore a little bit today. And this is what we mean by mindfulness. Yeah, exactly, Alan. So always start with mindfulness. So mindfulness, awareness, however you want to call it, we need to be more aware of our current situation, and we need to become aware of where do we want to go, what do we want to create, what does work-life harmony really look like to me, and then you can begin to take those actions to get there. But without that awareness, you're simply going to be on that hamster wheel, going nowhere. So I think a lot of you know this already. Our conscious mind, right? When we talk about our awareness, we have our conscious and our subconscious or unconscious mind. Neuroscience tells us that out of any given day, we are only consciously aware 5% of the day, right? So we're only consciously directing our lives 5%, which leaves 95% that is unconscious, which simply means outside of our awareness, or is operated by our subconscious. Whether you call it unconscious or subconscious, guys, same, it doesn't really matter. I prefer subconscious, as in it's below our conscious awareness. So 95% of our day, we're kind of running on autopilot without much conscious direction and control. And so to clarify that, it's the domain of our programs and our habits. Everything we kind of do automatically is in the subconscious mind. We don't have to think about it. It's the domain of our beliefs and values. And we're going to talk a lot about values today. That's where our beliefs and values reside. And most people, believe it or not, most people are not aware of their belief systems, and they're not aware of their values. And we'll explain more about values in a second. Our personality and attitude, for the most part, is unconscious, right? We say things like, oh, that's just the way that I am. My father was like that. That's why I'm like that. There's nothing that I can do about it. It's in my DNA and I can't change it. Well, you know Henry Ford's quote, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. But that's for sure is part of the subconscious mind. Our memories are stored away in a filing cabinet, and it's also the domain of our emotions. So your emotional reactions to the things that happen in your life, for the most part, are automated, unconscious, and unaware. And finally, our bodily functions, right? Your heart beating, your breathing, your digestion, all of that kind of stuff is handled by the subconscious mind. You don't have to think to beat your heart, right? Quick again, right? We don't have to think about that. Thankfully, that's kind of taken care of. So what our job is now is to create more awareness and to really begin to look at exploring that 95%. So in that 95%, what we can begin to be aware of are the thoughts that we have on a day-to-day basis, right? Again, neuroscience tells us we have between 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. That's a lot. And 90 to 95% of those thoughts are the same as the day before, and then the day before that, and then the day before that. So this is something we can start to become aware of. We can also become aware of your emotional state, right? So on any given day, are you in a more positive emotional state, or are you in a more negative or limiting emotional state? And so you can begin to be aware of that moment to moment. Your behaviors and your actions, or your reactions, is really, really important. Your beliefs and values is something you can become more aware of. Your reactions and your triggers, right? So remember, if we're looking to create some kind of harmony in life, harmony My definition is definitely more positive, more joyful, more fulfilling. The opposite of harmony would be what? Disharmony, right? Negative emotions, anger, frustration, sadness, anxiety, depression, and so on. So as we begin to be more mindful of our emotional intelligence, as we become more mindful of what or who or where pushes our buttons, then we can actually begin to, just through awareness of those triggers, we can begin to manage our emotional intelligence even more. And the more you can manage your emotional intelligence, the more positive you'll be, the more harmony that you will have in all of those aspects of your life. How you treat others is something you can begin to be aware of. Gosh, I remember, I'm going to share a few stories today. I hope you don't mind. When I first arrived to Thailand many, many years ago, 20 years ago now, I started work in a hotel down in beautiful Koh Samui. And imagine this, here's Luke. He'd been working in 10 years in manufacturing in a factory in Australia, packing boxes. Realized that there was more to life and that wasn't very, I got to a point where that was not very harmonious in my life and I needed to grow. I felt the need to explore and get out of my comfort zone. So I went backpacking around the world for 1 year. I arrived to this hotel. I got paid 7,000 baht per month, about $200 per month, which is tiny, but I could eat anything I wanted in the restaurant. And the first resort I worked at was called Rocky's Resort. It's a beautiful little boutique resort on Koh Samui. Back then, it was only a 2-star operation, but beachfront location and a kitchen that would cook anything that I asked. And for lunch one day, I got a big fish. I don't think I'd ever eaten a whole fish to myself before, right? So here's this big fish and it's lunchtime. There's no guests around and the waiter just kind of puts it in front of me and I just start to dig in and I'm eating like this. There's rice and fish and everything flying around everywhere. And then my big boss at the time, Mr. Ole Larsen, he comes over to me and he was such a great mentor and boss and coach. He was very hardcore for me because it's what I needed at the time. And he said, look at you. Look at you. Look at how greedy you are. Look at how much you are not appreciating this meal. And look at how you are not appreciating the work that the kitchen just did and the waiter just did to bring you this food. He looked at me and he said, you are so selfish. He said, grow up. And I'm like, well, that took the joy out of eating my fish. But I tell you what, it was a lesson that I quickly adapted. My lack of appreciation towards others. He said, look at you, Luke, walking around like a peacock with your feathers all up like that. He said, no, show some respect, show some appreciation for others. So thanks to him, right, I really became more aware in the moment of how I was disrespecting others, and it wasn't cool. Oh, here's a wonderful question. How can we improve emotional intelligence and what steps are there to measure that? Thank you, Rafiq. For the purposes of today's webinar, I'm not going to talk about that too much because I've done a whole other webinar totally on emotional intelligence. Please double check, go to YouTube and just type Coachology and then you can subscribe. And there's about 40 webinars that we've uploaded there. And there's a 1 hour webinar on emotional intelligence. So I'll give a few little clues as we go through, but please take a look at that full 1 hour webinar because we deep dive into that. I just want to mention it today, but I want to cover a few other topics in today's session. Yeah, hope that's okay. Your emotional addictions, sensations in your body, your posture, and so on. So there's lots of things that we can begin to become more mindful of in order to create more harmony. Yeah. So again, each one of those points is a webinar in itself. All right. So I just want to mention them and we'll keep moving through. Could add assumptions and worldview. Oh my goodness. Assumptions, assumptions, assumptions. If you want a great way to screw up your life, especially your harmony, it's like, and it doesn't matter where, especially in the working environment, but also with loved ones as well. So stop making assumptions, right? You can use your technique called clarify and verify, which is a simple form of active listening where someone says something, you clarify and verify what they said. Or if you don't understand something, you simply ask more questions till you get really, really crystal clear. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate your questions and your contributions here. All right. So a big part that I found in my personal journey is becoming aware of my values. And our values are simply what is most important to us, right? Values are very, very personal to each individual. They're very, very like deep and very, very unconscious. So even though we say that they're most important, for the most part, you know, they're residing in our subconscious mind. Yet every decision that we make, every behavior or action that we take is filtered through our personal values that we have about ourselves and the world around us. And again, for me personally, becoming aware of my values and then adjusting my actions to suit my values is what brings me the most harmony and the most joy in my life. So let's dig down a little bit more into values here. One more question here. Are driven by ration or by instincts? How to educate our instincts? What a great question. Well, the way we educate our instincts, so for the most part, our instincts could be part of our subconscious reactions. So focus and repetition and focus and repetition and focus and repetition. This is how you develop a new habit. This is how you can strengthen your intuition and your instincts. And by also, you may decide to realign your values to make one thing more important than another. But let's keep going here and I'll explain what I mean by that. So when we talk about values, guys, some people value certainty. They need or they want a regular paycheck. They want to have a roof over their head. They want to have a monogamous partner, a husband, a wife, and they want to have, you know, a certain level of certainty in our life. And you can also reference Tony Robbins' work. He talks about the 6 human needs, which is what we need to feel fulfilled, which are also aligned here to our values. So for some people, they really, really value certainty. And in fact, without a certain level of certainty, it's hard to fulfill other areas of our life. In other words, if we don't have a regular paycheck coming in and you don't have $1 million in the bank and you don't have a job and there's no regular money coming in, that's going to create a bit of concern, right? There'll be a lack of certainty there. Which will make it a lot harder to create this kind of harmony and balance in your life. So especially as you're transitioning from, you know, education, from school, from university into the working environment, certainly in those early years, certainly for me, you know, I like to spend money on stuff, especially as a teenager and as a young adult. And so I started work very early. I was working part-time and then I did not go to university and I went straight and worked into a manufacturing company and it paid very good, right? This is what we mean by certainty. Other people value a little bit of uncertainty. And you can say this another way by calling it variety. So some people, they're really, really kind of motivated or they find variety is very, very important to them. And if they don't have variety, they're going to go a little bit crazy, right? So sometimes it's about finding that balance or that harmony between having the certainty and having the variety. Some people value significance, right? Their own self-importance. If we do that to the extreme, it looks like ego, someone with a very strong ego who thinks the universe revolves around them. Other people, more love and connection is very, very important to them. Growth and contribution. Now, these aren't necessarily opposites here, guys. I don't mean you have to have one and then not the other. What I'm saying is, as we become more aware of our values, then you can get to make certain decisions and take certain actions that are aligned with your values in order that you bring more joy and more fulfillment to your life. Let me share a few more. And if you have any other values that are important to you or that you've heard about, please drop them into the chat box. Next one, freedom, right? Or conformity, or maybe we could call that comfort, right? So some people value freedom more, other people value comfort, right? And by comfort, I do mean like inside the comfort zone, or conformity, right? They prefer to have the 9 to 5, right? Which is also similar to certainty here. So conformity, comfort zone, or certainty is all quite the same things. Assertiveness, I think that will cover over here. We got money and time. Now, again, these aren't necessarily opposite, guys. I just want to share some of the main ones here. For some people, money is really, really important. For other people, time is very, very important, right? Their free time, which is also linked to freedom. Next one, family and success. So assertiveness might be linked to some kind of success and so on. So these are just some examples. And the important thing to note here, guys, values are so personal. It's not right or wrong. It's just where you are at the moment. And for most of us, when we go through life, as we grow and as we have more experience about life, when we experience the contrast of life, we get to experience the things that we like and the things that we don't like. As we experience the things that we don't like, we begin to focus more on the things that we do like, and then our focus shifts there. And then what happens over time, our values kind of organically change and morph over time. And I think the easiest way to explain this is in my own little journey. So when I left school, I wanted money. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to move out of the family home, and I wanted money. What was also important to me? Certainty. I was happy to have the comfort zone and the conformity job. I remember my first, job there at the manufacturing. It was 12-hour shifts from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it was 4 days on, and then I had 4 days off. So, when we talk about work-life harmony, it was actually pretty good. As a 19-year-old kid, straight out of school, getting paid $500 per week, it was pretty good. The job was pretty easy. I didn't need to think too much. It was working in a factory. I would clock in, I would clock out. I had my certainty of a job. I had that paycheck. And then I had a bit of freedom. I had 4 days off to hang out with the boys and to play with the car and to do these kinds of things. So at that point in my life, those were my values. If I fast forward to now, say 5 years ago, when I set up Coachology together with my beautiful, amazing, talented wife, Coach Christy, freedom was the most important. Money was still important, but I had a certain faith or belief that the money would come if we just focused on our passion, what we're passionate about. So the love and connection I was able to incorporate because we set Coachology up together with my wife, Christy. Growth was important. I wanted to continually grow myself, and I wanted to grow the organization. And contribution. as many of you know, we've set up our Pink Lotus Foundation. Some of you are awesome volunteers for us. Thank you for your support. As a way to kind of pay back to the local community and to empower people with these benefits of these coaching tools and the tools and techniques of NLP. So my values have shifted quite a bit in that, 20-year journey. Well, maybe a little bit more than that, almost 30-year journey. And that's okay. That's totally okay. And so as I became aware of my shift of values, for me personally, I realized that I could no longer work in a 9-to-5 job. For me, that was too much certainty. It was too much conformity. It's do as you're told and achieve this KPI and do this and do as we say. I've been there. It was part of my journey. It was a useful part of my journey. And I knew that I needed to evolve. I needed to create this work-life harmony. And I did that by becoming aware and mindful of my current values and how they were changing over time as I changed and as I grew. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah? So, yep, satisfaction, nice, is a value. Yeah, adventure and variety. Values change with life phases and transition. They do, Alan. So what's interesting, they change with our life's experiences, or we can actually consciously change them as well. So one quick story. When my wife first learned coaching tools and techniques, she studied NLP, she studied ICF, she started coaching. In the early days, she wasn't getting paid very much, right? So her heart was full. She was so passionate to coach, and she would coach anyone that would listen to her, but she wasn't really getting paid well for it. Then there are some very powerful tools in NLP called values realignment. So long story short, her values were elicited. In other words, which value is most important to her, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. So at the top, she had her personal growth, she had contribution, she had serving others, all those nice, positive values. You know where money was in her hierarchy, in her values importance? It was down around like number 15. So she basically wasn't making money important. And, money is not evil. Rich people are not bad. Okay. In fact, money is a good thing, and money just makes life that little bit easier. So what did she do? She, using a process of NLP, she lifted her value hierarchy for money up to number 3 or 4. I can't remember now. But long story short, she made it much more important almost overnight. And by the way, this is subconscious reprogramming, what we're talking about here. So her values were realigned using a conscious process to realign the subconscious mind. Within that next month, she had her best month ever. The next month was then the next best month ever. And she was earning $10,000 a month in Thailand as a Thai lady coaching professionals all around Thailand. So do not underestimate the power of your values, because here's the magic, guys. When you're aware of your values and you're aligned with your values and they're moving in the same direction, the joy, the fulfillment, and the harmony is going to go through the roof. Yeah? Make sense? Awesome. Okay, any questions? Pop them into the chat box, guys. I've got no idea how I'm going for time. Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah. So, guys, here's a few summary and tips. And there are some basic ones here that I know that you've heard about before, so I don't want to dwell on those too much. Meditation, when we talk about being more mindful, meditation, yes. Christy and I meditate every single day. Oftentimes, I'll incorporate some breath work into my meditation. I just feel it brings me much more present and much more grounded. And of course, yoga. They're all really, really good tips for mindfulness. Keep a journal of your thoughts and feelings. Okay, keep a journal. One of the best ways to become aware of those unconscious thoughts and emotion is to, daily just keep a little journal. right? And it's not to judge yourself. It's not to be harsh on yourself. It's to simply shine the spotlight of awareness on those unconscious thoughts and programs. 90% of the thoughts you have are the same as the day before and the same as the day before that. Our thoughts lead to our decisions, lead to our actions, lead to our results. So you want to start at the beginning of those dominoes. Become aware of your thoughts, change your thoughts, become more aware, and then you can create that greater harmony in your life. Next one. Become aware of your triggers. So again, for the person that was asking before about the emotional intelligence, check out that video. I talk a lot about the triggers there. So those triggers that are triggering you to be angry, frustrated, and whatever, just by being aware of your trigger, you can have 50% more control over it with no other fancy technique, except that you are aware that that certain person or that certain thing or that certain event or that certain place triggers you in a certain way. Just to be aware of it, you begin to manage your emotional intelligence around that. Because guys, here's the truth. You can't change the trigger. The trigger is going to be there somewhere in your environment. So rather than trying to micromanage every single part of your environment, learn to control your reaction, or said better, choose your response to the trigger instead of an automatic, unconscious, negative reaction. So take a look at that video. Now, here's hopefully a few new tips, guys, that you may not have considered. Don't compare yourself to others, right? When you think about, you know, like, oh, why does he have so much time off? Or, oh, geez, it'd be nice to go to Europe for a few weeks. Or, oh, do you do any work? Like, it's not your journey right now. All right. So wherever you are on your journey right now, just do the best with what's in your control. Don't be envious or jealous or anything like that. If you're going to have any emotions about what other people are doing, make sure they're uplifting. Make sure they're inspiring. Make sure you look at it as like, wow, what a great role model. Maybe I can take them out for a coffee and ask them, how do they do it? Right? Rather than feeling those negative emotions of jealousy and envy and so on. Explore your values and your beliefs, like what Christy did, like what I did. For me, my aha moment was I realized I needed creative freedom. That's why I had to get out of, a corporate, working in an officey kind of environment. It doesn't work for me anymore, right? It used to, and it worked very, very well for me at that time. But as I grew and evolved, my values changed and adjusted. Not saying that one is better than the other, right? Just saying that my values now are more aligned with who I am authentically, who I am, and what brings me joy. So I love to do these little busy periods of work, and then I love to come down here by the river and hang out and swim around the river with the puppies. Yeah, that brings me a lot of joy. So whatever brings you joy, do that. And the only way you'll do that is to become more aware of your values and more aware around your belief systems. Improve your relationship with time. So I'm going to talk about this more on our third module, which is productivity, passion, and play. But if we're talking about harmony here, right? And again, some people might be thinking, oh, it's easy for you, Luke, you got your own business. Well, yeah, I created that. And there was once upon a time when I was working for the man. So quick story, back on Koh Samui. So I had my mentor, Mr. Ole, and in the beginning, I got those lessons about appreciation and gratitude and being grateful. And he recommended to me way back at the beginning, he said, Luke, I recommend you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I just said, yes, boss. And so for 1 year, I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning every day. And I would be lucky if I could get back to my room by 11 o'clock at night. I'd be lucky if I could get there. And I had no days off in about 10 months. Now, in the beginning, I guess you guys have probably seen the movie Groundhog Day, you know, where the same guy wakes up and he's doing the same day over and over and over again. And then at some point in the movie, he realizes, maybe I can make the most of this day. And so that's what happened to me. I did not have any spare time, hardly. I was up at 5 o'clock and I'll be probably in bed by about midnight. And then it was repeat and repeat and repeat. And in the beginning, I fought it. I wrestled it. It's not fair. Why don't I have a day off? I have to work so hard. Boo-hoo-hoo-hoo. And then I just had to stop, right? Because there was no light at the end of the tunnel. There was no day off coming in sight. So what it forced me to do, and I actually really appreciated the experience, it forced me to be more present in the present moment, finding joy in the most simple and elegant of things. After Oli gave me that feedback the first time, the next time I got a fish for lunch. Do you think I showed the most appreciation that I could? Absolutely. I thanked the waiter when they served it. Every mouthful, I chewed it deliberately and just enjoyed it. And I looked around where I was. I'm on this beautiful, by then the hotel was evolving. We developed it to be a 4-star boutique resort, one of the most popular hotels on Samui at the time. And I got my chili sauce. And for about 15 to 20 minutes, I just had the most exquisite meal. And he came over to me, Oli, this is after these lessons. He said, excuse my language here. He said, Luke, are you having a mouth orgasm right now? Because it looks like you're having a mouth orgasm. I said, Oli, I'm just really, really appreciating this beautiful fish here. And then I finished. I took my dirty plate, of course, and I took it over. I didn't let the waiter do that. And I went into the chef and I said, thank you, chef. That was amazing. And so through my day, I would capture these little moments, enjoying a coffee, sitting on the rock for 5 to 10 minutes, speaking to one of the guests' children who was just in the moment and enjoying, talking to guests about the day and how happy they are with their room and the adventures and all of that. So you really got to look at your relationship with time, and we'll explore that more on module number 3. Practice setting clear boundaries and avoiding toxicity, right? So if you want to be more present and more mindful, then becoming aware of those triggers. Sometimes toxic people are those triggers. And next week in module number 2, I'm going to tell you how more to deal with that so you can create that work-life harmony. And a couple of questions you can ask yourself: how can I create more joy in this moment? What needs to happen to feel good? Or how can I learn, or how can I grow? Right? So let's come back to this resort on Samui. I'd been there maybe 4 years, and I started to feel underappreciated, underpaid, and that I was being taken advantage of. And I was ready to quit. I was ready to say, screw you guys. I'm doing all the work here. The guests love me. They mention me in TripAdvisor. I'm not getting paid. It's not fair, And thankfully, I caught myself and thought, well, hang on, Luke. Okay, there's got to be a learning opportunity here, right? There has to be something that is within my control that I can do to increase my harmony, because I was still working long hours then, not quite as long as before, but at least 12-hour days. So what did I do? What was my opportunity for growth? It was to approach the boss and say, listen, boss, I'm doing all of this. I'm coordinating these weddings now. I'm bringing all this money into the resort, and I think it's time that we discuss my salary and remuneration. And I was able to get my salary doubled, right? So, and then in addition to that kept me the peace for a little while. And then what I say to myself next is like, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn to become a general manager? So during that next year, I worked my butt off to learn specific new things about being a general manager of a hotel. At that point, I was the front office manager. And so I learn and I learn and I learn. And that learning and that growth brought me more balance, brought me more harmony in that environment. And by the time that year finished, I did move on to another hotel. I did double my salary again, and I did get the role of a general manager. Yeah. And in those days, I was a lot younger than I was now. So I had the energy, I had the enthusiasm, I had the passion. I was passionate about working in hotels at that time. Not so much anymore. I changed. But at that time, I didn't mind putting in that extra work because I was able to develop myself professionally and I was able to develop myself personally, which gave me that harmony. Is that harmony different now? Yes, it's very different now. And that's okay. And you need to be okay with that as well. Right. And that's what we mean by being mindful. What brings you joy? What don't you like? Knowing what you don't like helps you to refine and focus on what you do like and what you do want and what does bring you joy. Cool. No time off, similar to many Thai people. Yeah, I had a Thai salary too, Alan. I was getting paid 7,000 baht a month in those early days. And no regrets. It was it was boot camp for me is the way that I look at it now. A very learning experience. Cool, guys. So if you have any questions, pop them into the chat box here now. We're coming up on our time. And just to wrap up, guys, you know, to get to this point here is because of NLP. I learned NLP many, many years ago. It's what inspired me to leave Australia in the first place and go backpacking around the world. I learned more about NLP when I arrived to Thailand. And of course, I became a trainer of NLP because I know how much it's positively affected me, my wife, and the students and the clients that I work with. So please come and join us in July. You can join us virtually or face-to-face on the 7th to 11th. We have two options there, monthly payment plan or pay in full for a special discount. And if you love to be a coach, then please come and join us either virtually from 16 to 17 of July, or you can join us in Bangkok. Borders are open. I've got people from Malaysia and people from Singapore and maybe even Vietnam coming over in the next few weeks. So please come and join us if being a professional coach is a desire for you. Time does fly by. Thank you, Alan. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you to the regulars who are back here again. Thank you. A couple of new faces today. Really nice to see you. And join me next week, same time, same channel. We're going to be looking at module number 2 for work-life harmony. And we're going to be looking at dealing with toxic people. So until then, guys, please stay awesome, stay safe, and see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks, Adrian. Webinar Wednesday's back. Cheers, guys.